In this week's episode 32, you find me midway between Uganda and Kenya. I started my journey in Kampala, Uganda, broke the journey midway to the border in Jinja on Lake Victoria, the source of the Nile. Now we're continuing across the border by bus onto Nairobi and then finally by the SGR train to the destination, Mombasa, on the Indian Ocean and the incredible Shanzu Beach. I'm so glad that I decided to have a couple of days rest next to the River Nile at Jinja before I embarked on the major part of this mammoth journey. My name's Charlotte Beauvoisin and you're listening to the East Africa Travel Podcast, My Diary of a Muzungu. Today's episode is dedicated to Brian Kisembo, my sound recordist who's been with me from the very start. He's trained me how to record on location and he helps me with the editing, and he's a fantastic sounding board too. What does Brian sound like? Well, if you didn't listen to episode 22, please go back and listen to that one. I really enjoyed recording that episode with Brian because we had quite a laugh remembering some of the great guests we'd had and the fun moments recording on location at Sunbird Hill on the edge of Kibale Forest. Even though he's Ugandan, he hadn't travelled to the forest before, so he was exposed to all kinds of experiences and what to him were really crazy sounds. So that's a favourite episode. Anyway, Brian, big thanks to you, Wibali, for all your support and your attempts to try and get me to speak Luganda. Sustainability is one of the core themes of this week's episode, both physically and metaphorically. Last week I shared a few practical tips for crossing borders, particularly between Uganda and Kenya. In this episode, we'll also be talking to the general manager of one of the top 1% of hotels in Kenya. Alfaxa Chege tells us what sustainability means in practice at one of my favourite hotel brands, the Serena. We talk about practical ways to be a bit greener. We talk about the local heritage that the Serena Group actively protects through the architecture of the different locations. We take every means of transport possible, apart from a plane, as I travel down to the coast. And there are two reasons for that. One is I love an adventure and I love working things out as I go along. Some of my favourite blog posts about train journeys and bus journeys, and you meet the most interesting people. You never know when you're going to be on a bus and a nun's going to offer you a banana. Very Ugandan. Public transport journeys always provide a fantastic range of characters for stories. The purpose of this particular journey was to participate in a sustainable tourism conference in Mombasa. Anyway, let's get on with our journey. The bus from Jinja left on time, 7 o'clock in the evening. By the time we got to the border crossing at Busia, it was about 2:30 in the morning. But I had all my documents in place. I crossed without any problem at all. Sorry to say this, dear Kenyan friends, but immigration going in and out of Kenya can be a bit of a problem. Just the other day, I had somebody message me saying they'd been ripped off by some unscrupulous staff at one of the borders. Just don't give people a chance to take advantage. Make sure all your documents are in order. Have your East Africa tourist visa or your interstate pass or your electronic travel authorization from Kenya. The document you need depends on your immigration status and which passport you hold. And the bus continued through the night up until Nairobi. I think we had one stop along the way for what we call a short call. I think you can guess what that is. And literally off the bus, back on the bus 5 minutes later, back we go. They switch the lights off, everyone goes back to sleep, and the journey ends in Nairobi at a place called River Road. It's in the CBD, the Central Business District. It's extremely congested. You really need to have your wits about you. You will land in an area that is surrounded by thousands of people, all kinds of taxis and boda-bodas and buses and coaches and matatus. But actually I've realised Before you get to the CBD, get off at Westlands. It's a commercial area with a couple of well-known shopping malls. So if you get off there, you can go to the bathroom, brush your teeth, get yourself organised before getting into the craziness of downtown Nairobi. So I tend to do that now because I can get there around 7 o'clock in the morning, and then I've got time to have a coffee, use the free Wi-Fi in a cafe, and get some Kenyan shillings out from one of the ATMs in the mall. So that's my top tip. Don't go to River Road, get off in Westlands. This also gives you a chance to book a Bolt or an Uber or any kind of taxi to get to the SGR train station. You can go by public transport. I did work out how to do that on a matatu, which is a fraction of the cost, but actually I wasn't sure how I was going to get to the matatu after an overnight bus journey. I wasn't quite with it, so I just thought I'm going to allow myself the luxury of getting a private taxi. I'm glad I did that, but he went the wrong way. I find this quite often with taxi drivers. They don't want to go on the toll road because they're thinking of the cost of that. They'd rather go the old way, which is really congested. But if you, as the passenger, are in a rush and you offer to pay the toll, then go that way, because the longer route is actually quicker because there are less vehicles on that. I didn't think to say this to the taxi driver. I just assumed he was going to take the toll road, and then we found ourselves in roadworks at least twice. Nairobi is a huge city. Every time I go to Nairobi, I feel it's grown. To me, it feels almost as big as London now. It's famous for heavy traffic, although that has improved a lot with the construction of some new artery roads. It is amazing to think that just 130 years ago, Nairobi didn't exist, and it was actually the railway that created what has now become modern Nairobi. The original railway line from Mombasa went up to Kampala, Uganda. Most of that track is still there but unused. And even though most of the railway crosses Kenya, it's called the Uganda Railway. Anyway, that's a very interesting piece of history, and I wrote about it in quite a lot of detail several years ago when I took the Lunatic Express, the old train, the narrow gauge railway train. You have to be at the SGR train station an hour before you leave. It's not quite as complicated as going through an airport, but it is almost, because your bags are going to be scanned, they're going to be sniffed. Sniffer dogs, you have to place all your bags in a row in the middle of this small hangar. Then you stand back, you're not allowed to touch the dogs, and the dogs will walk up and down. And then even though you've pre-purchased your tickets, you actually have to get them out of the ticket machine, and there was a bit of a line for that. So there are a number of hoops to jump through in order to get on the train itself. The facilities are improving all the time, but I still had a problem getting airtime. I don't think there was Wi-Fi on the train either. So I was in a little bit of a panic at a certain point, thinking that I was going to miss one of my connections. Considering the Madaraka Express, the official name for this train line, considering it's a commercial venture, it's surprising how few facilities they have. But of course, there are toilets, there are a couple of places where you can buy snacks. The Nairobi terminus is also known as Soki Mao. That's the name of the area where the train station is. And be aware, it's an hour away from the central business district. If you're downtown, there's an old-fashioned train that trundles along very slowly from one station to another. I've travelled standard class and first class on the SGR. I've also travelled to the coast by bus, and I've done a comparison of all the different ways to use public transport. I'll put a link to that blog post in the show notes for this episode. First class is the way to go. It's not particularly expensive. The seats are wider. You have a little bit more legroom. You can go into the dining car. The food's not all that exciting, but it's quieter than standard class. And if you're into wildlife watching, I think that's a good place to sit. One thing I found a bit disappointing was that we were going through Tsavo, Tsavo East, Tsavo West. Essentially, you have one national park that's divided in two by the railway line, but it's the same protected area. And I'm so used to working with professional guides. I really wanted to know the names of the hills and the mountains we were passing and where I should be looking out for a certain type of animal or bird. There was some kind of speaker announcement saying to look out for wildlife, which I was pleased to hear, but it also kind of left me waiting for more. And imagine you've got this receptive audience who don't have much else to do, and they could be entertained and educated about all the different places we were going through. Anyway, let's hope somebody listening to this podcast gives that idea to the train company and they develop the onboard facilities a bit more, because not everyone wants to just wire themselves into their phone as they're travelling. The rules around the SGR train are phenomenal. There's a long list of them. If you do take the train, make sure you read them because there's a few surprises. You're not allowed to take pets or bicycles. You're not allowed to smoke or carry drugs. But you can't even take aerosols or sunscreen. You're not allowed to take alcohol either. And you can understand they don't want you to drink on the train, because if you're going to the coast for a holiday, I can imagine the party getting really out of hand, especially knowing some of my Hash House Harrier friends from Nairobi. Oh my God. We'd have an amazing party on the train, but you might innocently be taking a bottle of booze that you're going to be drinking when you're actually on holiday on the coast. So just beware that you might get it confiscated. You can buy tickets on the day you travel, but buy in advance if you can. At some times of the year, all the tickets are booked up. Of course, Fridays and fast trains get booked up first. And if you need help booking tickets, let me know. I know someone who can help you with that. All in all, the SGR service is really excellent, but just factor in the extra travel time, because even at Mombasa terminus, that's an hour outside Mombasa as well. That's called Miritini Station. Once we got to the Mombasa terminus of the train, there were a series of minibus taxis, collectively known as the SGR shuttle. You can pre-book them, or you can actually just get on any of the taxis once you get there. When I got to the car park, I saw there were lots of other taxis and they're holding up signs saying that they're going to Diani or they're going to Old Town Mombasa. So you could just get into the first one that you see. It was a very easy journey from there on modern roads, and I think it took me about 45 minutes, perhaps an hour. The advantage of taking this kind of shuttle is that you're sharing a minibus with other people and it's very affordable. But of course, Ubers and these kind of private cars are also available, but expect to pay quite a bit more. Of course, it goes without saying that I always try and get the window seats facing in the direction that we're travelling. So I really enjoyed the first minutes looking out onto the streets of Nairobi, the buildings thinning out, and after about 20 minutes, the city was behind us. We were mostly away from human activity. As I said last week in episode 31, I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to trains and railways. And I'll link to some of those old blog stories here because they get a lot of traffic, no pun intended, from readers, even now, almost 10 years after I first wrote them. The train ride for me represents a free safari, not so much a game drive as a game ride on the tracks. The landscape changes, and as we move from the high area of Nairobi towards the coast, at one point we are at the bottom of cliffs that's covered in scrubby bush, where the environment is dry and yellow, and then baobab trees appear sporadically at first. There are fields of sisal, weaver bird nests, and then there are small areas of arable land. In another section, it becomes greener, and then we see the occasional banana tree. Unfortunately, you see some big pylons. You see the original road, Nairobi to Mombasa Road, which is a very heavily trafficked road. There are sections of kind of featureless bush, red, flat, dry earth, and dusty elephants everywhere. One of the things I love about travelling solo is you're far more likely to start a conversation with a stranger. I was gawping out of the window, watching the elephants and counting them, and the lady next to me, a middle-aged Kenyan lady, said, "I don't like them." So I started up a conversation with her, and I told her that I was working in Uganda in human-wildlife conflicts at one point, and I mentioned the elephant trenches that can be used to stop the elephants. And she said, "Yeah, but they cross, and they pull each other across. And the elephant fences, one of them tests it, and they find a part, and they cross." It's very difficult to argue with somebody who lives with elephants like this lady and her family clearly did. Apart from the elephants, I saw a giraffe. I saw an ostrich staring at me as the train went past. I saw a gazelle. I saw cows. I've got my eyes peeled. I'm working things out for myself. I don't have my binoculars with me. I cursed myself at that moment for not having them, although I am lugging my laptop and my podcast recording equipment and goodness knows what else, 4 diaries, as I mentioned last week. And then in the matatu from Mombasa SGR up to Old Town, I got talking to a lady called Fanis, and she very kindly helped me get a tuk-tuk. When we got to the Old Town, she was a bit concerned that I was going to be travelling on my own because it was dark by then. I had my Kenya shillings. I knew where I was going. Tulia Hostel, right on the edge of the water, a few minutes walk from Fort Jesus. This lady and I got in a tuk-tuk together and we went down these little side streets. As we went off the main road, it looked really quite run down and not that well lit. I was confident that there was a hostel at the end of this road, and Venice was saying, "Are you sure you want to go down there?" Anyway, she was happy to see me to the door, and that was a really lovely welcome to Mombasa. So thank you, Venice, and all the other Vanices in Kenya. It was nice after a long journey to connect with another human being and have a personal welcome to the city. The Tulia Hostel was in a beautiful old building right on the edge of the water. Nothing much to see from the outside, but inside it felt distinctly Arab and it felt very different from what you might find in Uganda or further inland. I did think about recording my journey in the matatu, but when you're tired and it's dark, it's not a good idea to get out your recording equipment. Before heading to the resort on Shanzu Beach, I just needed a few hours in the old town. Somebody from the hostel kindly walked me up to a small restaurant. I fancied a cold beer after that long journey, but I'd already sat down and placed my order before I realised it was a Muslim-owned restaurant and they weren't serving alcohol. But never mind, I can live without a beer. But I always have to try something local, and I had sautéed calamari, coconut rice, an iced tea and tamarind juice. So that was beautiful and that really revived me. My first degree is actually in Middle East history and politics, so I felt much more connected to the Middle East and that part of the world by my few hours in Mombasa. I also enjoyed going through the market next morning. Again, somebody from the hostel very kindly walked me up to where I was going to catch my next bit of transport up to the resort. The streets were really busy, Biashara Street Market, and that's everything I wanted Mombasa to be that morning. It was thick with people, reminded me a lot of Egypt or Istanbul. It was very colourful market, all kinds of cultures coming together, very obviously Muslim majority with the ladies' headdresses and so on, and the traditional attire of many of the men. This particular street market is an old, run-down part of Mombasa, but its history is centuries old, and I could spend a lot of time there, but unfortunately, I was just rushing from A to B. I wasn't recording. Going into a busy street market, you really have to be well prepared if you want to be recording things, but it smelt beautiful as well. I saw lots of scents on display. We were not too far really from Zanzibar Island, the Spice Island, which is famous for the different kinds of essential oils. So really, I just got a taste, or shall I say a whiff of Mombasa, but I really must go back there again soon. here we are at Serena Beach Resort Spa
Yes.
in Mombasa,
Yes.
Shanzu Beach.
Yes.
And I'm here today with Al Fakhr's Chege.
Yes, correct.
Thank you very much for hosting me, and we've been at this Sustainable Tourism Travel Agenda Summit, and it's been such a beautiful venue for our deliberations on sustainable tourism.
Oh, wonderful. Nice to hear that.
And thank you for the tour. I did the tour with one of your colleagues, I think he was called Samuel.
Samuel, yes.
And he showed me the Namu village. It looks authentic to me. It's a beautifully designed village made of, what do you call it, coral brick, coral stone?
Yes, the coral stone.
And he showed me the themes in the architecture of the turtle motif, and then he showed me how you rescue the turtles. So that's an interesting project. People may stay here when you're releasing the turtles into the sea.
Actually, lots of guests always call us to find out when are you going to release the turtles, and sometimes plan their holidays to coincide with the main release period. So it's an amazing thing and very fulfilling when you see you're giving these creatures a second chance to life. This project started many years ago. I got to meet one of the founding managers of this hotel close to 40 years ago, who's now retired, and he told me how this all began. That time there was very little information about turtles, so one of the staff found this huge creature in the morning at the beach. That's when it all started. Serena purposely decided from that point to keep the shoreline as dimly lit as possible, because these lights confuse the young turtles when they hatch, and they stray away towards the light instead of getting back to sea.
So you deliberately don't like the beach?
Correct, yeah. Well, in some spots we would put a sensor light, just in case somebody is passing by, it will just come on, and then just for security.
Yeah.
But you'll realize we don't light up the beachfront like many other hotels do. This area is a natural nesting ground for the sea turtles, and they have such a good memory. So when the baby turtles hatch, say at adulthood, they will trace their way back to where they came from and lay eggs in the same place. So what Serena has been doing, we work with local communities, especially fishermen and people who earn their livelihood around the beach. We educate them on the need to protect these creatures, and when we find a nest that is in an endangered area, then we relocate the nests to our hatchery at the hotel.
The hatchery is a very simple construction, isn't it?
Oh.
It's a wooden frame with
exactly.
What I call chicken wire.
Yes, exactly. And this is just to keep off other predators that would, mongooses or other animals that could, that could burrow and get the eggs. We give an incentive to the locals whenever they rescue an endangered nest. The incentive goes towards alternative proteins, for example, chicken eggs instead of turtle eggs. So it makes sense to them. Apart from that, we have donated freezers to the fishermen so that when they catch their fresh fish, they can be able to preserve it before it goes to the market. This collaboration also shows them the benefits of conserving, so that you're not just telling people don't do this. Yeah, so it's been an amazing journey. We have engaged a scientist who runs this project. He's in collaboration with Kenya Wildlife Services. He's actually an honorary warden. He's called Mr. Orlando, so probably you could have met him some times back.
And one time I was here and you were releasing turtles. I couldn't believe my luck that I was here at that moment, and so we had visitors who were staying at the resort, and there are also some passers-by because it's a public beach, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
So we spent this week looking at different aspects of sustainable tourism, and it's a big topic and it can be quite overwhelming at times, but what Judy Kefagona, the leader of this program, said is you just start. You have to start somewhere.
Yes.
How do you advise your guests? How can they reduce their own carbon footprint when they're staying with you?
The Serena Group has been taking up the responsibility of mitigating against the impact of climate change. And just recently we completed installing a huge solar farm, and on a good sunny day we are able to meet up to 90% of our energy needs directly from the sun. Apart from that, we have many other initiatives. We have already completely gotten rid of single-use plastics. You will see our water bottles are all in
nice.
glass. About 5-6 years ago, we got rid of the little miniature shampoos and shower gel bottles.
Yeah.
So we have installed dispensers in the bathrooms.
Yes.
So it's a collective small efforts.
I imagine you are Ecotourism Kenya rated.
Oh yes, this property is gold decorated, and it is because of the many initiatives that we've put in place to protect our environment. We have a team that actively cleans up the beach on a daily basis. But apart from that, every first Saturday of the month, we engage our guests to participate in a beach cleanup exercise. The main purpose of this is to pass information. It is more of sensitizing our guests, especially when we have families with children, on the need to take small steps toward reversing this climate change.
And I understand that there are 100 properties in Kenya that now have some form of certification. You're one of the few properties that has the Ecotourism Gold.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that even though there are 100 properties certified,
Yes.
it's still only 1% of the accommodation in Kenya. So the country still has a long way to go.
It's a long way to go, but it's right steps in the right direction. The things we see here, especially when you're doing our beach cleanup, is crazy. We at some point have collected plastic bottles from seashells.
How do you mean?
We've collected used plastic bottles
Yes.
from our beach line
Yes.
that have moved all the way from seashells.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it tells you how damaging and how far this trash can travel. And unfortunately, these plastics degenerate into microplastics, and they get ingested in fish, in turtles and other sea creatures. They clog their digestive system and they eventually die.
It's shocking to think that a piece of plastic can be part of our food chain as well.
Yes,
Through our own
exactly.
neglect.
So we play an active role in sensitizing our guests to leave as little footprint as possible during their stay. And when they're staying with us, of course, we also sensitize through the need to conserve water, energy.
Where do you get your water from? Do you have a desalination?
Yes, it's borehole water, but we have a desalination plant. We are able to reduce the salinity and have it potable for use. We encourage our guests, if you're staying with us for 2 nights, probably a lot of us at home will not wash your towel every day.
No.
so we encourage them, if possible, you keep your towel hung, then we don't replace it.
Yeah.
That saves a lot of water that would have ended up in our sewer lines. Yeah.
I do feel we can be more proactive though. There's still the expectation that towels are changed and sheets are changed more regularly. I know the information is there in the bathroom, for example, but
Yes.
you kind of have to look for it. I wish we, as an industry, were being a bit more proactive. There was a lady presenter from Namibia who is also a teacher, a trainer in hospitality, and she has a community project, and she said, we have a bucket next to the shower and we don't want anybody to waste any water, so we say to them, make sure that the shower water is collected in the bucket and then please go and water a tree after you've had your shower.
Oh, wow.
So like nothing's wasted, but it's also encouraging us to think holistically.
Yes.
And I like that message.
There's a lot that we can do.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the other initiatives, we've recently began supporting the replanting of mangroves. Mangrove plants have the highest absorption of CO2 from the environment.
From what I understand, you're doing this because a huge area was cut illegally, I guess.
Exactly. Now, along the coast, the biggest forest are the mangrove forest. This is used for firewood, it's used for construction, it's used for all sorts of domestic use. There are huge areas that are now exposed, so some organizations have come together to try and re-establish and replant.
Because mangroves prevent the erosion of the coast.
Yes,
Don't
have
they?
multiple functions. They also provide ideal nesting areas for birds and also the fish.
Hatcheries for crabs.
And prawns and stuff like that. There's a lot of benefits that can come from such activities.
Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about the resort and the rooms you have and the facilities and where we are?
Serena Beach Resort and Spa is one of the most authentic, has very rich and unique architecture.
How would we describe this for listeners? I think Swahili is part of
Yes.
the design?
Yes, it's Swahili, and Swahili is a rich fusion of very different cultures, from the local Bantu communities to the Arabs and a bit of Indian. All the people who had an impact on the early days through trading along the coastlines.
It's 500 years of history.
Yes,
or
exactly.
more, yeah.
So, and the facility is built to resemble a Swahili village. A lot of inspiration from what we see in Lamu. So even as we keep updating our property in terms of guest needs, we still try as much as possible to maintain the rich heritage.
So the building that we're sitting in at the moment is got whitewashed walls. We
Yes.
have bright fabrics and
Yes.
dark wood with interesting carvings on the handle of your chair. This looks like frangipani.
Yes, exactly.
Which is a fragrant plant that does very well here on the coast.
This building where we are in here is the Grill. It's a seafood restaurant. It's called Jahazi. Jahazi is the local name for a dhow.
A ship.
So you can see all the inspiration around here.
And
Yeah,
ships,
yeah,
and we even have a sandy beach floor to the entrance area.
Exactly.
Yes, it's
And
beautifully done.
upstairs you'll find a captain's table.
I've had dinner up here, it's absolutely fantastic.
Thank you. It's one of the
Thank you.
best seafood restaurants in the coast. We have 164 rooms, so a lot of them, some on the garden side, other sea facing. We also have a beautiful spa. You should try this before you leave.
I'll try and fit that in.
And
It's the Maisha Spa.
the Maisha Spa.
brand, yes.
Yes, and what is so special about Serena in Mombasa is, unlike other hotels, we try and give our guests a very tranquil experience. Life has become so hectic and busy. So this is the most ideal place to rest, and despite having 164 rooms, you never feel like you're overwhelmed by lots of people because it's built on a huge area. So if you sit at the gardens, you'd not even realize that you're in a big hotel. So that's one of the unique experiences about our property.
I have to say your staff are incredibly friendly, even if I'm just walking nowhere in particular, everyone says hello and such big smiles.
Oh.
You know, you feel like you're amongst friends and nothing's a problem.
Thank you. And this comes naturally. The Swahili people are very hospitable. And we've also engaged that culture into the Serena culture, and it's become part of our philosophy.
I know lots of Serena staff from Kampala, from Kigali, from different properties around the region. It always strikes me how long people have been working for the company, and I get a sense that you're a very close-knit family.
Management takes a lot of care to make sure the staff welfare is looked after. I started my Serena career in Tanzania. I've been to Rwanda, Uganda, and from all these places you're able to get a taste of different cultures, different experiences, and I think that's one of the things that makes Serena so unique compared to other hotels.
Yeah, your properties are quite different. You've got big city hotels that do
Yes.
conferences.
Mhm.
You've got remote bush camps.
Yes, correct.
The resorts on
Yes.
the beach. I've stayed at the Serena in Stone Town in Zanzibar.
Oh, yes.
Again,
That's
radically
also
different, very old buildings.
Yes,
but,
correct.
But done in your beautiful trademark style.
Yes, and they are all different in their own special ways. And that is part of the larger Serena mission, protect the heritage of the local architecture of where each property is situated.
Do you have a favourite Serena camp or hotel?
Wow, in terms of design, Serena Beach is very unique. I'm also inspired by architecture at one of our lodges in Tanzania called the Ngorongoro Serena. If you're flying over that lodge, you'd not even recognize that there is a lodge below you because it's so well camouflaged through stone pitching on almost every space.
I haven't visited. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
I hope to get there one day.
Yes, you should. I'm an advocate of regional tourism. I strongly feel that Africans are not traveling enough across the boundaries. We will find more Ugandans and Kenyans going to Dubai and other destinations, but not many have explored what is on offer around East Africa. So I think Africa, and East Africa to be specific, has a huge potential of growing tourism by encouraging people to visit neighboring countries. A lot more needs to be done to encourage and make this travel easier. For example, we have direct flights from Entebbe to Mombasa 3 times a week. It is an opportunity for Ugandans, for example, to access the beautiful beaches in the Kenyan coast.
There is an initiative twinning Kenya coast with Uganda.
Yes.
Will you be hosting people as part of that familiarisation trip?
Yes, we have done so in the past and we've been fully in support of it. Through our association, we have also sent delegations to Uganda. I think it's a beginning of big things to come.
Thank you, Alfax Chege, for your time. Really interesting to hear more about what you're doing here down on the coast. Thank you very much for hosting me and for hosting the Sustainable Tourism Summit.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure and karibu tena. Karibu.
I was particularly interested in hearing about the Ecotourism Kenya Gold rating that the resort has and how hotel guests can contribute. As a trainer, it always gives me more ideas that I can share with the people that we train back in Uganda. It also helps me to travel a bit more sustainably too. Well, I hope you enjoy this mix of content. Some stories from me on location and conversations with interesting people I meet along the way. I also had a great conversation with my good friend Harriet Owala. Harriet is an award-winning travel journalist from Nairobi, and you can listen to our great conversation in episode 23. After the Sustainable Tourism Summit, my journey continues down the coast on towards Diani. On this journey, I went both ways. I went one way on the bypass and I came back on the ferry. The ferry is so quick and easy. It just takes 7 minutes. It's a long time since I've been somewhere where I was surrounded by such a vast number of people. I mean, I'm talking thousands of people. When you walk down to the ferry, which is one of those kind of flatbed ferries that literally goes across a straight section of water, but when you slope down and you can see people's heads kind of below you on the slope and we're gradually filtering as one in one direction, it's quite amazing, a little bit scary as well, this sea of people. No sooner have you got on, you hardly need to find a seat, then you're off on the other side. Likoni ferry goes non-stop all day. It pauses for a few minutes for some vehicles to drive on and they pay a very small amount of money, and the people coming on, going off, coming on, going off all day. It really is quite something to see and to be part of, but it is massively overused and it does have its critics. If you're going to Mombasa, Fort Jesus is highly recommended. It's a stone construction that protects the city from the sea. It was first constructed by the Portuguese in the 1500s. Over the centuries, it has been taken over by Arabs, Turks, the Brits, Zanzibaris, Omanis, and I really loved the tour. There's a modern museum as well as the old construction itself. Definitely worth a visit. I'm in the back of a matatu, just heading towards Likoni ferry. The driver only charged 150 Kenyan shillings, which is good. I think that's the price that everyone else is paying. 5:15. It's a bit of a bottleneck now. We're entering Mombasa, and hopefully we will be across the ferry and I'll be on my way to Diani before it gets dark. It's Saturday, so the traffic's not too bad. Lots of tuk-tuks. Perfect way to travel in this heat. Tuk-tuks have windscreens, but they open at the sides. They're three-wheeler kind of motorbike. I can't actually see my bag. Hope it's still here, because if it's gone, then I don't know where it went. By the time I've finished this trip, I've stayed in a dome-shaped tent, a shipping container, a backpacker dormitory, a cottage, and not forgetting the 5-star Mombasa Serena Beach Resort and Spa. I'm on the ground researching all types of experiences and accommodation, ready to share that information with you. So if you've got any questions about anything I've talked about, or some places that you're curious about and you wonder whether I've visited, please don't hesitate to contact me. I deliberately don't put the prices of things in my podcast, and that's for a couple of reasons. One, simply because it dates. And nearly all of my content is evergreen, meaning it doesn't matter whether you listen this week, next month, or even a year or two's time, almost all of it will still be relevant. But the other thing is that certain things are priced depending on which passport you hold. Ugandans and East Africans generally pay a lot less for certain activities. International tourists are charged more. Therefore, I just decided, let me keep it simple. Let me not put prices in for things, but you can always get in contact with me if you want me to price something for you. So what do you think of this episode? It's been quite fun to jump around to a number of different locations with you and to create some content on the hoof, as we say. But next week we'll be back in Uganda. Are you following us yet? Please click follow, write a review if you possibly can, and comment. Feedback from you is so encouraging, and it also helps other people find the podcast. Are you planning a trip to Kenya or anywhere in East Africa? Save yourself the hassle that I went through. Contact me and I'll make a recommendation of one of the tour operators and hotels that I work with. You've been listening to the East Africa Travel Podcast with me, Charlotte Beauvoisin, author of Diary of a Muzungu. Thanks for listening. Until next time, Safari and Gemma. Safe travels.